First Contact's Price. The Grand Overseer of the Korendi Alliance stood motionless before the quantum display, her iridescent scales shifting from deep purple to midnight blue as she processed the data streaming before her compound eyes. After 3 centuries of methodical expansion and careful species collection, they had finally found them. Humans. Impossible, she whispered, mandibles clicking softly. They should have destroyed themselves millennia ago. The discovery had been accidental. A routine survey probe scanning the spiral arm designated as primitive space had detected unusual energy signatures, fusion reactions far too controlled to be natural. Further investigation revealed a solar system teeming with artificial satellites, space stations, and ships that shouldn't exist. The species labeled as pre-industrial in their ancient databases had somehow survived their violent tendencies and reached for the stars. High Admiral Zextal approached the Overseer, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the soft bioluminescent lighting. Your Excellence, the preliminary analysis is complete. They've colonized 12 systems, with evidence of mining operations in 20 more. Their technology is unorthodox. Explain, the Overseer commanded, her scales rippling with curiosity. They don't follow conventional development paths. While some of their technology appears primitive by our standards, other aspects are remarkably advanced. They've mastered fusion but still use chemical rockets. Their weapons are crude but devastating in their simplicity. And their communication methods. He paused, mandibles twitching nervously. Continue. They broadcast everything, excellence. Music, entertainment, military communications, all thrown into space with barely any encryption. It's as if they don't care who's listening. Or they're confident enough not to worry, the Overseer finished. Fascinating. They'll make an excellent addition to our collection. The Korendi Alliance had perfected the art of species acquisition over millennia. Find a promising race, demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, and offer them a choice. Join the Alliance as servants or face extinction. Most chose survival. Those who resisted provided valuable lessons in subjugation for future acquisitions. Prepare the First Contact Fleet, the Overseer commanded. Standard protocol. 100 ships should be sufficient for a species at their development level. Ensure the cultural integration teams are ready. Excellence. Zextal ventured cautiously. Perhaps we should send additional ships. The data suggests their military capabilities are primitive compared to ours, she interrupted. 100 ships will demonstrate our power while leaving room for their pride. We want servants, not slaves. Besides, what can a species that still uses projectile weapons possibly do against our energy shields? The First Contact Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system 3 days later. As per protocol, they transmitted the standard greeting, a message of peace backed by the implicit threat of their presence. The response came almost immediately, in perfect Korendi language. We've been expecting you. Before Admiral Zextal could process the implications, proximity alarms screamed across the fleet. Thousands of small objects, previously masked as space debris, suddenly activated. They were crude by Korendi standards, little more than nuclear warheads wrapped in stealth materials, but there were so many of them. Shields at maximum, Zextal ordered, but the humans had done their homework. The warheads detonated in precisely calculated patterns, creating ripple effects that overloaded the Korendi shield's frequency modulators. As the first ships began to fall, new contacts appeared on long-range sensors, human vessels emerging from hiding spots throughout the system. They weren't the sleek, energy-powered craft the Korendi expected. Instead, they were brutal, practical things bristling with railguns and missile tubes. They fought like creatures possessed, using maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart, accepting damage that would have made any rational species retreat. The Overseer watched in horror as the battle telemetry reached the homeworld. The humans had known they were coming, had prepared, had studied the probe they'd allowed to find them. Worst of all, They demonstrated a truth the Korendi had forgotten in their centuries of easy conquest. Technology means nothing without the will to use it effectively. As the last transmissions from the first contact fleet faded into static, a new message arrived, broadcast in the clear, just like all their communications. The Korendi Alliance has committed acts of enslavement against multiple sapient species. This is unacceptable. You have 24 hours to begin releasing your collected species. After that, we will free them ourselves. We are humanity. We do not surrender, and we do not serve. Choose wisely. The overseer's scales shifted to pure white, the color of terror. They had wanted to add humanity to their collection. Instead, they had awakened something that had spent centuries preparing for this very moment. The war that was about to begin would reshape the galaxy and deepen her core. The overseer knew which side would emerge victorious. Humanity wasn't primitive. They were patient. And now, they were angry. The silent strike. 3 months after humanity's ultimatum, the Korendi Alliance was learning a harsh lesson about human warfare. They had expected a direct assault, fleets of ships charging their borders in a glorious but futile display of defiance. Instead, they got ghosts. Commander Ixel of the Korendi Defense Force stared at the latest casualty reports with all 4 eyes. Another supply convoy had vanished in the Centauri corridor. No distress calls, no debris, just ships there one moment, gone the next. Like the 12 convoys before it. Play the last known recording, she ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing normal space traffic. Then a brief energy spike, lasting less than a second. When it cleared, the convoy was simply gone. Analysis suggests a new form of drive technology, her science officer reported. They're using localized space-time distortions too. He hesitated. To fold ships into pocket dimensions. Impossible. Ixel chittered. Their technology level is exactly what they want us to believe it is, interrupted a new voice. Grand Admiral Zextal, one of the few survivors of the first contact disaster, limped into the command center. His once pristine armor was now scarred, a permanent reminder of human efficiency. The humans have been playing us since before we found them, Zextal continued. Those primitive broadcasts, a screen, the outdated technology, a mask. While we spent centuries collecting species like trophies, they were studying the galaxy, preparing, waiting. A junior officer rushed in, mandibles clicking in distress. Commander, we've lost contact with the Helios shipyards. Ixel's scales rippled in disbelief. The Helios shipyards were the most heavily defended installation in 3 sectors. Losing contact was impossible. Unless, show me, she ordered. The main display lit up with surveillance footage. At first, everything seemed normal. Then small objects appeared near the shipyard's outer markers. Not ships, too small, too simple. Space-suited figures, using primitive chemical thrusters. Humans, Zextal whispered. On foot. They watched in stunned silence as the humans bypassed the shipyard's advanced security systems with almost contemptuous ease. Some carried simple cutting tools. Others placed small devices on key structural points. Most disturbing were the ones who seemed to need no equipment at all, just their suits and their training. How are they surviving our defensive fire? Ixel demanded. They're not being fired upon, her tactical officer responded. Our automated systems, they don't register the humans as threats. They're too small, too low-tech. The system is designed to track ships, energy weapons, advanced technology. Not this. The humans worked with practiced precision, no wasted motion, no hesitation. Within 20 minutes, they had completely infiltrated the shipyards. Then the small devices they planted activated. It wasn't an explosion. There was no massive fireball, no devastating energy release. Instead, the devices created microscopic black holes, just large enough to tear the shipyards apart from the inside. just unstable enough to evaporate before they could pose a wider threat. The entire installation, pride of the Corendi fleet, collapsed in on itself like a house of cards. The humans disappeared as quietly as they had arrived, leaving behind only a simple message etched into a piece of debris. Technology isn't strength. Understanding is. We've detected similar attacks across 12 sectors, the tactical officer reported. Refineries, research stations, defense installations, all targeted with minimal force, maximum effect. They're not trying to destroy us. They're dismantling us. Zextal finished, piece by piece, showing every subject species in our alliance that we're not as powerful as we pretend to be. Ixal's scales shifted to deep blue, the color of realization. The broadcasts, the primitive weapons, even that first battle in Saul, they're not just fighting us. They're teaching others how to fight us. As if to confirm her words, reports began flooding in from across Corendi space. Subject species were rising up, using tactics eerily similar to the humans. Simple solutions to complex problems. Low-tech answers to high-tech defenses. The careful manipulation of physics rather than reliance on advanced technology. Order all fleets to battle stations. Ixal commanded. Activate the deep space defense networks. Deploy the automated response systems. Belay that, Zextal countermanded. Conventional defenses won't work. Not against this. We need to think like them. We need to. He paused, mandibles clicking in frustrated admiration. We need to go primitive. But they all knew it was too late. The Corendi had spent too long relying on technological superiority, on the assumption that advancement meant sophistication. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting the art of achieving maximum effect with minimum technology. And now, they were teaching that art to every species the Corendi had ever subjugated. The silent strike continued, and with each passing day, the mighty Corendi alliance discovered that all their advanced technology couldn't save them from the simple, deadly efficiency of human warfare. Breaking point. The Grand Overseer's private chambers, once a marvel of bioengineered architecture, now felt like a prison. The living walls, traditionally pulsing with calming patterns, reflected her inner turmoil, churning with dark reds and sickly greens. 6 months of human warfare had done what centuries of peace had not. It had broken the Corendi's confidence. "Show me the latest," she commanded, her voice hoarse from endless crisis meetings. The holographic display materialized, showing the collapsing empire. Red dots marked systems in open rebellion. Yellow indicated suspected human activity. Green showed loyal territories. The display was mostly red and yellow now. The Pyraxians have declared independence, reported High Strategist Venna, her scales a muted gray of exhaustion. They're using modified mining equipment as weapons, just like the humans showed them. The Centauri sector is in chaos. And our response? Ineffective. Our automated defense systems are being turned against us. The humans taught the rebels how to hack them using abacuses and mechanical computers. Technology so primitive our cybersecurity can't even recognize it as a threat. The Overseer's scales rippled with rage. What about the loyalty programming? The genetic controls? Broken. The humans distributed some kind of retrovirus. Completely natural, no technological components for our scanners to detect. It's rewriting the loyalty sequences we engineered into our subject species. A new alert flashed across the display. The Overseer's scales went pure white as she read it. No, not the Nexus. The Corendi Nexus was more than just the heart of their communication network. It was the binding force of their empire. Through it, they controlled everything from planetary defense systems to the environmental controls of their colony worlds. And now, they're not attacking it. Venner reported, mandibles clicking in confusion. They're using it. Feeding it false data. Our own network is convinced that rebel ships are friendly forces, that loyal forces are threats. It's seen what they wanted to see. How? The Nexus is the most advanced AI system ever created. Its quantum processors are being fooled by simple pattern manipulation. The humans aren't hacking it. They're telling it stories, feeding it data in ways that make sense to its logic but lead to false conclusions. They're using psychology on an eye. The overseer's scales shifted rapidly through colors as she processed this. The humans weren't just dismantling their empire. They were turning everything the Korendi had built against them, using the very tools of control as instruments of liberation. The breakaway systems are coordinating, Vena continued. The humans have taught them to use something they call Morse code, simple pulses of light or radio waves. Our communication interceptors are useless against it. It's too basic to decrypt. Enough. The overseer's voice cracked with fury. If they want primitive, we'll show them primitive. Activate the world breaker. Vena's scales went gray with horror. Excellence. The world breaker was never meant to be. Do it. Let's see how their precious simplicity holds up against a weapon that tears apart planetary crusts. The order went out. Deep within a heavily guarded asteroid base, ancient machines hummed to life. The world breaker was the Korendi's ultimate deterrent, a device capable of shattering planets through gravitational manipulation. They had built it centuries ago, but never used it, knowing the political consequences would be too severe. But the overseer was beyond caring about consequences. As the world breaker's location was transmitted through the compromised nexus, she felt a grim satisfaction. Let the humans try to counter this with their primitive solutions. The satisfaction lasted exactly 6 minutes. Excellence. A junior officer burst into the chamber. The world breaker. It's deployed. Good. Target the human colony in the Proxima system. Let's. No, Excellence. It's gone. The humans. They didn't try to destroy it. They stole it. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The most heavily guarded weapon in Korendi space, protected by defenses that would have vaporized any conventional assault force, had been stolen. And according to the security logs, it had been done by a team of just 6 humans, using nothing more sophisticated than climbing gear and mechanical tools. As alerts began pouring in from across Korendi space, the world breaker appearing and disappearing near key strategic locations, the overseer finally understood. The humans hadn't just been fighting a war. They had been conducting the galaxy's largest teaching operation, showing every subjugated species that resistance wasn't about matching your opponent's technology. It was about understanding how to turn their own strengths into weaknesses. The Korendi Empire had reached its breaking point, but the humans weren't going to destroy it. They were going to let its own subjects dismantle it, piece by piece, using the very tools of control that had once kept them in line. The revolution wouldn't be won with advanced technology. It would be won with simple solutions, basic physics, and the one thing the Korendi had never thought to guard against: knowledge freely shared. The ultimate weapon. The war room of the Terran Defense Command was surprisingly austere: bare metal walls, simple holographic displays, and a large wooden table that had been salvaged from an old Earth battleship. Admiral Sarah Chen liked it that way. It reminded everyone that humanity's strength wasn't in its technology, but in its people. The Korendi have gone silent, she reported to the assembled commanders. All standard communications ceased 6 hours ago. Something big is coming. General Marcus Rodriguez, commander of the Special Operations Division, nodded grimly. They're abandoning their pattern of predictable responses. That makes them dangerous. The holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy, a sprawling network of liberated systems surrounding an increasingly desperate Korendi core. What had started as humanity's response to attempted conquest had evolved into a full-scale revolution, with dozens of species throwing off centuries of servitude. New contact. Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the quiet discussion. Massive energy signature at the edge of Korendi space. It's unlike anything we've seen. The display shifted, showing something that defied conventional physics, a tear in space itself, growing larger by the second. Through it emerged a vessel that made the assembled commanders catch their breath, not because of its size, though it was enormous, not because of its weapons, though they were clearly planet killers, but because of what it represented. "They've done it," Admiral Chen whispered. "They've actually activated their contingency." The Korendi contingency was something humanity had discovered decades ago, while secretly studying their future adversaries. A massive ship, built over centuries and powered by an artificial star, designed to be absolutely unstoppable. The Korendi had never used it because its very existence violated their carefully maintained image of benevolent overlords. "Message incoming," Park reported. Text only. The words appeared on every screen. "You wanted primitive. We will reduce your worlds to primitive states. You have 1 hour to surrender." Admiral Chen's response was unexpected. She smiled. "They still don't understand," she said, almost pitying. "They think this is about technology." She turned to her communications officer. "Send the signal. It's time to show them our ultimate weapon." "But Admiral," one of the younger commanders protested, "we don't have anything that can match that ship's power." "Exactly." Chen's smile widened. "We have something better." Across human space and in every liberated system, a simple message was broadcast, not in advanced quantum code or sophisticated encryption, but in plain radio waves that anyone could receive. "The time has come. Remember your training. Remember your purpose. Lambda protocol is now active." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The massive Korendi ship continued its ominous advance. Then, across the galaxy, billions of beings, humans and aliens alike, began to move with purpose. On thousands of worlds, people who appeared to be simple farmers revealed hidden workshops beneath their fields. Workers in Korendi factories initiated carefully planned shutdowns. Maintenance crews on space stations made subtle adjustments to critical systems. No advanced technology, no superweapons, just countless individuals who had spent years preparing for this moment, armed with simple tools and complex knowledge. The Korendi ship's artificial star began to flicker, its weapons powered down. Life support systems faltered. The mighty vessel, designed to be impervious to any technological attack, was being undone by an enemy it couldn't fight. Understanding. "You see," Admiral Chen explained to her stunned staff, "we knew we could never match their technical superiority. So we didn't try. Instead, we spent decades infiltrating their society, learning every detail of how their technology worked, teaching others to do the same, and then we waited." The displays showed similar scenes playing out across Korendi space. Their mighty empire wasn't falling to advanced weapons or superior technology. It was falling to people who understood exactly how everything worked, and exactly how to make it stop working. "This was never about proving we had better technology," she continued. "It was about proving that technology isn't what makes a civilization strong. Knowledge is, understanding is, cooperation is." The massive Korendi ship hung dead in space, its crew trapped inside their own ultimate weapon. Around it, the gathered forces of humanity and their allies, ships of all sizes and technological levels, crewed by beings who had learned to fight not with overwhelming force, but with precise understanding, prepared for the final phase of the war. "Send the message," Admiral Chen ordered. Once again, simple radio waves carried the words across space. "Your empire was built on the assumption that advanced technology equals power. We have proven otherwise. Surrender now, and we will teach you what we have taught others, that true strength lies not in controlling knowledge, but in sharing it." As they waited for the response, Chen reflected on humanity's true ultimate weapon, not the ability to destroy, but the ability to teach, to share, to turn enemies into allies by showing them a better way. The galaxy was about to change forever, not through force of arms, but through force of understanding. Tomorrow's dawn, 5 years after the fall of the Corendi contingency, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Great Hall of the new Galactic Concordat bustled with activity as representatives from hundreds of species gathered for the 5th anniversary of what historians now call the Knowledge Revolution. The former Grand Overseer of the Corendi, her scales now a humble brown, stood at the podium. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The leader of an empire that had hoarded knowledge was now the chief administrator of the galaxy's largest open education initiative. 5 years ago, she began, her voice carrying across the diverse assembly. I believed power came from controlling technology, from keeping others dependent on our advanced systems. I was wrong. Humanity taught us all a better way. In the front row, Admiral Chen sat alongside representatives from 24 formerly subjugated species. The uniforms and formal wear around her ranged from highly sophisticated biosuits to simple hand-woven garments. No one cared about the technological disparities anymore. That wasn't what mattered. The humans could have destroyed us, the former overseer continued. They had the knowledge to shut down every system, disable every weapon, cripple every ship. Instead, they chose to teach, to share, to show us that true advancement comes not from technological superiority, but from understanding and cooperation. The massive screens behind her showed images from across the galaxy, former Corendi military installations converted into universities, once secret research facilities now serving as public innovation centers, species that had been enemies for centuries working together, sharing their unique perspectives and knowledge. Today, we celebrate not just the end of an empire, but the birth of something greater. The Concordat's principle is simple. Knowledge belongs to everyone. Technology is just a tool. Understanding is the real power. Admiral Chen smiled as she watched a young Corendi scientist demonstrating a new environmental restoration technique to a group of Pyraxian engineers. They were using a combination of advanced biotechnology and simple mechanical principles, the kind of hybrid approach that had become the hallmark of post-revolution innovation. The humans taught us that progress isn't a linear path from primitive to advanced, the former overseer said. It's about finding the right solution, whether it's building a quantum computer or using gravity and simple machines to achieve the same result. They showed us that sometimes the simplest answer is the best one. In orbit above, the transformed Corendi contingency ship, now the Concordat's flagship university, served as a constant reminder of this lesson. Its artificial star still powered the massive vessel, but now it provided energy for research labs and learning centers instead of weapons. Students from across the galaxy studied there, learning not just how to use technology, but how to understand it at its most fundamental level. But perhaps the greatest lesson, the former overseer concluded, was about power itself. The Corendi Empire fell not because humanity had superior weapons, but because they understood something we had forgotten. The strongest force in the universe isn't technology or weapons or even knowledge itself. It's the willingness to share that knowledge with others. As she finished speaking, a new alert appeared on the main screens, a signal from deep space. First contact with a previously unknown civilization. In the old days, this would have triggered military protocols and conquest planning. Now, it sparked excitement and curiosity. Admiral Chen watched as teams from a dozen species began preparing the standard greeting package, not a show of force, but an offer of knowledge. An invitation to join a galaxy that had learned to value understanding over control, cooperation over conquest. Ready to make some new friends? General Rodriguez asked, joining her at the window overlooking the bustling capital city below. Chen nodded, watching ships of all shapes and sizes moving through the sky, some incredibly advanced, others seemingly primitive, all equally valued. That's what we do now. We teach, we learn, we grow. The sun rose over the horizon, casting golden light across a galaxy transformed not by war or technology, but by the simple, powerful idea that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. Tomorrow's dawn had arrived, and it was brighter than anyone could have imagined. In the end, humanity's greatest victory hadn't been defeating an empire. It had been showing the galaxy a better way to live. The age of technological supremacy was over. The age of understanding had begun.